Hi, this is Karen, Grandmother Dances in the Night Skies, and welcome. Today I have Steph joining me. Steph's medicine name is Deep Waters Moon Woman, and we are going to be co hosting a beautiful program called Death Walker. Boy, I tell you, death and I have walked hand in hand my entire life. From the time I was very little, I dealt with death living on a farm. And I've, over the years, as a teenager, I wanted to commit suicide so many times. As a young adult as well, I've attempted suicide about 14 times and came very close a couple of times. Death has always been calling me, if you will. I have had so many people in my life have died, and animals that have been a part of my life throughout my entire life. And I really, really am called to the Death Walker and the teachings of Death Walker. So a Death Walker typically will be someone that will help somebody that is already crossed. So when they go to the bardos, what are the bardos? The bardos are where you go right after you die. And that is where you're starting to disconnect. You start disconnecting your soul self from your life experiences and those around you so that you can move on now to the veil to be able to complete this life pattern out so you can begin your new one. That's what the death walker is. But what I wanted to incorporate was the grief process that comes with it as well. Often I have families come to me and say, I know that you're a death walker, but we're experiencing this grief. Can you do a private ceremony for us? Can you help us out? We don't know how to manage the grief that we're sitting in. And so this program that we've designed helps you with exactly that. First, we walk into all the aspects of grief and all the things you really aren't even thinking about. And then how to assess them, how to deal with them, give you some tools and some ceremonies that you can walk out of it and say, you know what, I feel a little stronger with my knowledge, and maybe I can incorporate that in my own healing process as I navigate grief. And then the next part of the program is the walking with death, but it's walking with death as it's happening.
Mhm.
So again, another thing that has happened with me as a death walker, I get families come to me. Gee, we're in the process of dying. My dad's dying, my sister's dying, or I'm dying. And how do I navigate that? This is not, and I want to be very clear on this is not a death doula program.
Mhm.
A death doula program, I highly recommend you go to a university or a college that is accredited to be able to do that. This is more on a spiritual level. This takes you to death as it's happening, but on a different level. So recently I was faced with my own mortality, and I recently discovered that I have three brain tumors. And so what I did is I spun. I went, oh my gosh, I'm ready to die. I was preparing my will. I was preparing my funeral. I was preparing who's going to get what, making lists of everything that I have, who I want to go where. And I stopped talking about the future because
Mhm.
the future to me didn't even seem attainable. And therefore, I didn't even know how to want to live into the future because I couldn't see it happening. And I didn't want to uh, ignore it. I wanted to walk in it. And I allowed myself that process of grief, which is often what we deal with as well. But grief with my family, I had to talk to my children who are both in their 40s. So it's not like they're babies, but I still had to talk to them. I had to talk to my grandchildren. I had to talk to my husband. This is what it looks like, and this is what it could look like. Can we have these hard conversations? So I wanted to include all that kind of information for you as well. How do you walk with grief? How do you walk with the process of dying? How do you deal with someone that has committed suicide? Or how do you deal with suicidal thoughts when you're ready to go? And how can you reach out for help? What is out there for you so you don't have to make that drastic choice, so you can choose to live this life? How can you do that?
Mhm.
And then at the very end is the death walker itself. Now the soul is crossed. Where does it go? Can we find help for the soul that is lost? You often hear about ghosts, some people will call it, or spirits, I call it, come and visit me. I always get spirits come visit me and wake me up in the middle of the night. Well, how do I stop them from bothering me all night long? Well, you can put up gateways and you can say, no, no one can bother me at these times. So, to keep yourself safe as well, to protect your own self so you're not getting drained by the souls that are coming to see you. That's kind of what the Deathwalker program looks like. Steph, do you have anything to add?
Ah, lots, and then also don't want to give too much away, but I think you encapsulated the journey really, really well. So in this Deathwalker program, I am more of the analytical program put together person. And right now, what you were speaking to is that we have three levels. So I just want to acknowledge that there's three levels within this program. And the first level that grandmother was speaking to is that you will be meeting your own grief, your own triggers around grief, and being asked to look at your grief in ways that maybe you haven't before. And the reason for that, and what we believe in a lot of the work that we do, is that in order for you to walk someone through the fire of their own stuff, you have to first be willing to walk through the fire. And so you have to be willing to meet that grief and to see what's there and to navigate it and find ways to have a safe release and a comforting release. Um, and allow yourself to bring up what's in there and not suppress. And so in the first program, in the first level, we're going to do a lot of the work around our own grief and what might show up for us when we're holding space for others. So we can be a clean and clear vessel to be able to hold the space, knowing we can't prepare you or us for everything out there, but we're going to do a pretty good job at most covering most of it. The second level is going to be a little bit more hands-on, like grandmother said, where it's more hands-on during the process of death. So as death comes, like grandmother said, she has people that come to her before they die, or they bring their families to them to talk about what it might be like on the other side, or what you might expect, what might happen with the body, the thoughts. Maybe even talking a little bit about how to get things in order or what to do. I know, grandmother, you mentioned that this last year when you went through your own healing journey and your meeting your mortality, that you were, organizing like your will and where things needed to go. So just helping people be aware of like that's part of the natural process and not shying away from that and being prepared of it. Actually, something that's coming in right now is a download that I don't even know if grandmother knows, but back in the day, I used to be an insurance sales representative. So I used to sell life insurance. And one of the things, and I don't anymore, but I do believe in it. If you are not financially independent right now, it is something I think that could support. But the interesting thing for me was that anytime we would talk about it, about life insurance, people would be like, "Oh, we're not dying anytime soon, though. Like we don't need it right now. It's not an important conversation to have right now." And how interesting is that? Because we never actually know our end date in this lifetime. It can come sudden. We can be, we can get an illness, something can happen, and we might not be prepared. And so the aspect of the level two in Deathwalker is to get us prepared in different ways, in the awareness and the conversations and the organization of what happens when I do leave this earth, or what happens when my family member leaves this earth. So preparing kind of in that way, but also in more of like also the way of just the sacred space holding. Because sometimes around, when fear or when death comes in as a potential, like it did with you, grandmother, fear sometimes also shows up. Like I'm not quite done yet. I don't want to die. I don't have enough, I haven't lived enough. And so it's being able to help people walk through all of those emotions and thoughts and feelings that show up in that moment. And then when we move into the third level of Deathwalker, which will be in the fall of 2026, that's going to be more of, like grandmother said, more of the actual helping the spirit, the body release, the spirit cross, and then what happens to the spirit past that. So kind of guiding that too. So we start from the grief process and the acknowledgement that we all are guaranteed that death is coming for all of us. It's part of our return home. It's part of our life cycle. And so we start with the grief process and the awareness. We deepen the awareness into the sacred space holding and the preparation. And then we do a ton of care and help. We do a ton of care and help the spirit and the soul cross over while we also do care for the family that's still left here today. So this program has been something that you and I have talked about for a couple years now when I first started working with you. And it's interesting because as I've been around you, the more I've been around you, the more that I've been called to this medicine also, the more death I've also been around and helped with. And one of the things that I think we were talking about before we jumped on this call, one of the things for me that really like grounded this in for me. So how I knew. So this is going to touch on to those people who are like, is this for me? This is how I knew. You're going to have your own way. You're going to have a goosebump moment, an awareness, a pull that you can't stop. You're going to have something that's going to show up for you. How I knew this medicine was it within me though was one of my friends did choose to take her and end her life. And because of the culture she had, her dad had asked myself and another friend of hers to prepare her body because that was what their culture had asked was that two females prepare the body for the ceremony and then the cremation. And it was interesting as we're leading up to it. My friend and I said yes to doing this. And as we're leading up to it, everyone's asking, like, how are you doing? Are you scared? Are you worried? Like, what's going on? Like, are you sure you want to? I had so many people. I think I said this to your grandmother. I had so many people that were like, oh, you shouldn't do that because they had never done it and they haven't maybe had that calling. Maybe that wasn't part of their journey, right? But we went in and prepared the body. We washed, we bathed, we dressed, we put the body cosmetics on the body to make it look more presentable for their ceremony. We did all these things, and the entire time I just felt at home. I was like, it was actually an honor to honor the life of my friend who said that was her time. But it was an honor to actually hold and do care for her at the end of her life, you know? And so that's how I knew. I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm in. Because it just felt normal and natural and like home to me. And so that's why I said yes to doing this with you, because I'm just like, yep, it feels at home, but also because there's a piece of me that feels that sometimes when it comes to death, that when we're going through the traditional system, sometimes some of these care pieces are missed, you know, like even the grief part or the communication of death before it actually happens while the person is on their deathbed already. Like a lot of those things I find are missed. And then it's kind of a big shock for the people that are left here, still living while the person has passed on. And so it just, if you're sitting here listening to this and you are someone that when death comes are someone that can hold space and has held space before for people and is really called to do care for the living and for the souls that have passed on, then this is probably a program that will ignite your soul and will feel like home for you in a sense. So just to touch on the analytics again, we have the three levels. We start in January, so January to February. We have early bird on right now that ends next week, September 30th. We do offer payment plans, so please don't worry if there is a financial consideration. Contact grandmother or myself, and we will do our best to accommodate you. We do want to also just preface this and be very clear by saying that this isn't a certification program. This is more of a soul certification. That's like my soul is aligned with this. I don't know if that lands for you or if it's the same for your grandmother, but that's what it feels like for me.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if there's a whole bunch more to say other than early bird is on right now. It's 257 for the first course if you choose, and if you want the entire program, if you want the three levels and the journey for essentially a year together that we'll be spending, right now it's on for 1350. So you can reach out to us and let us know how we can support you in enrolling if it feels like it's a call and if it's a yes. You can leave comments and questions on the video below here. So if there's any questions and whatnot, you can ask there, or again, directly email us. I'll put the email and all the information in the caption below, but just in case if anyone's listening, it's info@shamanicreiki.ca. That's how you can contact grandmother and myself because I help manage some of her stuff. Um, is there anything else that you'd like to add to this
Yeah, even
conversation?
though this is an online program, quite a few online programs that I've taken over the years are watch a video and
Hmm.
then away you go.
Hmm.
Excuse me, this is a very interactive
Hmm.
online program. So, although, yes, it's online, we will be communicating and doing a lot of things together in real time.
Hmm.
So, it'll be as if you were actually in the room with us and talking with us and sharing. And there's all
Hmm.
kinds of stuff that we will be doing and you will be doing with each other
Yes.
as you're working through that. So, it's not a watch a video, download it, and you're
Hmm.
done because it's really important that we really experience how we are walking through that. I know we're taught sometimes that death is something to be afraid of. And, recently my cousin asked me to sit with her during MAID. and
Mm-hmm.
and I actually was honored to be able to assist her in walking that journey. And our nephew passed away of a drug overdose, and having that journey to watch that and watch the family and then facilitate and work basically at the funeral to help with the prayers and help with that
Mm-hmm.
aspect. And there's so much more that goes on
Mm-hmm.
with all of this that's what we're sharing.
Hmm. So just to reiterate, because what you were saying there is important to note, this is a live online program. So this is not module based. Excuse me, not module based. You will be online with us 2 hours. So we have it's sorry, it's the first level is 4 sessions, 2 hours each that are live that you were asked to be present for. Reason why is because, like grandmother said, there's a lot of interaction, there's a lot of dyad or like partner communication that starts to show up. And what we find is really supportive in our journeys, and why I am so called to work with grandmother and be in circles with her and other people is because I find that you do more of your own internal work happens when you get to see your reflection in someone else's journey. And so we ask you to be live for all of the calls if possible, unless there's a really extreme reason you can't be, because there's going to be so much that you're going to witness in someone else that will resonate with you, and there might be something that gets to be released because you were a witness of something that triggered and brought something up. And so, a live online program, 4 sessions is the first level, 2 hours each session, and then the next level two is similar format, and then level three is a little bit different, and we'll get into that as we get closer to it. So, I also want to speak to the fact of because we talked a lot about like choosing to end life, and that is a piece. But grandmother, you've also walked with people that have been dying because of an illness, specifically your husband, your past husband. So just can you just touch on that in a way that can you just share about it is what I'm asking.
So my first husband, his name was Ken. I met him when I was, oh my gosh, 14, and we started living together when I was 16, and we got married when we were 18. Had children very, very young. When I was 45, he was 46. We discovered that he had lymphoma, and he went through 9 months of chemotherapy, and we were always thinking it was going to get beat. Excuse me, a year after the first rounds of chemotherapy, the cancer came back, but it came back very aggressively. And within 4 months after that, he had gone. But he insisted on staying home
Mm-hmm.
and wouldn't allow any care to come into the house. So
Mm-hmm.
I became a full-time caregiver real quick. And then I learned how to take care of Broviacs and how to feed through a tube and how to do all this stuff, and was the full-time caregiver. And I was exhausted, but I didn't know how to reach for help. I didn't even know where to turn. And I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't find the strength to admit to people that I even needed help. So I tried to do everything on my own. And, my kids, it was interesting the other day. My son, I saw him cry the other day. And I said to him, I said, wow, I said, I haven't seen you cry as an adult. And he turned to me and he said, Mom, I've never seen you cry. And I
Mm-hmm.
went, wow. And he's right. Even when his dad died, I didn't cry. Didn't cry at the funeral, didn't cry anywhere. And how I responded right after the funeral, it was drastic because I was bound determined I wasn't going to grieve, that I was fine. And I didn't understand that grieving process. Two
Mm-hmm.
years later, it hit me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I cried, but I cried in silence. I cried away from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's that process. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I wanted you to speak to it because, like I said, the reason that I felt called to work with you in regards to death, and there's been some crazy things that have happened between us in regards to death of like visions and premonitions and things, but for you, not only are you like in feel calling to it, walking the shamanic path now, but you've already had so much experience of it prior to even becoming or joining the shamanic journey and living the life in the way that you have now and following the faith you have now. You had experience way before. And so I think that's also what really drew me to is that for me, I'm one of those people that I want to learn from people who have had experience with what they're sharing, showcasing, and teaching and guiding through. And I think that I could say this for anyone that knows you, is that you have a ton of experience in the death walking aspect. You have met death in so many ways. I think the first year I met you at one point, I think you had a total of like 20 some people had died around you at that time. Just in
23 people
yeah,
within
in a span of like a year or two,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, like, that's a lot of people to either know, to hold space for, to grieve. And so, lived experience. Yes, like you have lived experience. And so I think that's also just, I think the medicine and the experience you've had with that is going to be very potent in this course and in this program. And so I'm excited for that also, just because you have, again, that lived experience that's just going to add that next level or another layer that I think is being called forth in this capacity for this program and where we're at in humanity right now. And the other thing I just would speak to you, and I've talked about that, is that we do have a little bit of an aging population in the baby boomer aspect of things. And because of that, there's going to be more people that might exit this world in the next couple years and so on. Um, and so it would probably be helpful if more of us were comfortable with these conversations so that we could help people that are meeting, their end of time and their end of this life and their return home. And it'd probably be really beneficial if more of us could have the awareness and have the capacity to be able to hold space for such a sacred moment. So yeah, also that piece there. I don't know, is there anything left else that we want to share?
I think we got it.
I think we got it. If you feel called to sign up, I will put the link in the comment below in the description below. So you can click the link, you can email us if you need a payment plan. The one thing I really respect and honor about grandmother and I try and do this in my own work is that we do need to put food on our table, and so there is a cost, obviously, and we do as best we can, and she does as best she can to work with people to make sure that the medicine is shared as it should be in this lifetime, and also that there is reciprocity. So just know that we will work with you if there's consideration, but also trust in that inner knowingness and whatnot. If you feel the call, what one thing we didn't talk about on here, and I'm just going to touch on it. If you, for those that don't know me, I also coach and lean on a program called Human Design or a system called Human Design. And what I love about this system is it teaches me and reminds me and teaches all of us that each of us has our own unique way of knowing when something is aligned for us. So for some of you, you're going to need to feel into this and you're going to need to ruminate on it in a couple days. For others of you, if I ask you right now, do you want to take Death Walker? Yes or no? Your body will have a gut reaction and you will know. So in that moment that I just asked, if you had a yes, contact us. If you had a no, then maybe it's not for you right now, or maybe you need to have a conversation to find more information out potentially. So just trust in that. Um, and then for those of you that are more of like a mental processing where you need to actually talk it out, phone us, have a conversation with us and talk it out and then see what happens. So just honor your body's way of knowing if this is aligned or not aligned for you is what I'm going to say. Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool. Okay. Well, we have all the details out. We start January 9th. We will have a limited amount of seats. We haven't confirmed 100% between grandmother and I, but we know that the grief work is deep work, which means that we can't have 100 people in this cohort. So we will run it at whatever her and I decide is the appropriate number of people for this year, and then we will run another one. If you missed the boat on this one, don't worry. This is medicine that both of us feel called to do, and we will definitely host again. But if you feel called, connect with us, reach out. 257 is the early bird for the first level one that gives you the 4 sessions plus some integration and some homework. And then again, the full cost is 1350, so $1,350 if you want to do the full program before early bird. After the early bird, which ends on September 30th, it goes up to 1500, 1536. So that gives you an idea to start kind of planning out finances. We do not need the 1350 upfront if you are a full yes. We just need a payment plan in place for it. So you also have that option too. All right, I think that's everything. I think we covered it all.
I think we got it.
We got it all. So we wish you guys well. Thank you for listening to the video. Share it out if you feel called. Again, ask us questions, and we hope to see some of you in the program. Aho.